Welcome to the Bedford Writing Competition Awards presentation evening. I know that some of you have just come a short distance from Bedford, but actually we have a few people here who've come quite a distance. Sussex, Somerset, Scotland. It's no mean feat to make a journey at this time of the year, especially with the weather problems that we have recently. But fortunately today it was reasonably mild, and I think the traffic problems possibly would diminish. I want to actually start by making special welcomes to groups of people and individuals here. The first, of course, are the shortlisted entrants, because without you writing your stories, we wouldn't even have an evening like this. So thank you very much for actually taking that trouble to write a story, send it in. And I'd be interested to know afterwards actually how you found out about us, because we're always keen to know which are the best channels for advertising our competition. There's a number of them out there, and if you enter our competition, we feel privileged because there are so many others you could have entered. The other group of people I want to thank, and there's quite a number of them here tonight, is the panel of readers. We received well over 300 stories in the competition this year, and that's no mean feat for one person to judge. So we have to have a panel of readers who actually sift through those stories and bring it down to a long list and then down to a short list, and finally for Lee to actually do the final judging. So thank you very much to the panel of readers. You actually this year said, please send us stories. You weren't even worried about the fact you were getting a batch of 10 stories and we say, please read them in 3 weeks and let us know what your marks are. You just came up trumps, and thanks very much for that. The other people I want to thank are the judges of the 2 competitions that we're running. The main competition, which was judged by Lee Russell, and the Bedford Prize, which was judged by, I'm trying to see where you are. Ah, there you are, Margaret Norrit. Thank you very much. I know it's probably a very difficult job, and I'm sure you'll talk about that later when you come to present the prizes. And also I want to thank the Mayor for attending tonight. Thank you very much. This is about Dave Hodgson, the elected Mayor of Bedford. And he was here last year, and the fact that you're supporting us twice is really well appreciated. Just run through a little bit of the history of the competition. We started a competition in 2013. It was only a small scale thing. We just extended it as far as Bedfordshire. And it was organised by people from an organisation called the Retirement Education Centre, which is a place in Bedford where old fuddy-duddies like me go and keep their brain active by learning things. And some of the things we learn are creative writing. And from that creative writing group, we hijacked a competition that was run by the REC for the REC people. Sorry, when I say REC, that is the acronym for Retirement Education Centre. We hijacked their competition and extended it to the whole of Bedfordshire, not just to the members of the REC. It was reasonably successful, but it actually gave us an appetite for doing something better. And the following year, 2014, we extended it just by means of having a website and advertising it and marketing it that way. That proved extremely successful, and we carried on into this year. And again, we've actually increased on the number of people entering by almost exactly a third, which I think was, for us, that's very encouraging. It does show that we must be doing something right. So we will be here next year. There's the message from that. Right, now none of this works unless we have the dedication of people working behind the scenes. And most of you probably will have received an email from me and think, oh, is he the only one that's actually organising this? Well, it's absolutely not true. We have 6 members on our committee, and I'm going to embarrass them all now by asking them to stand up and do a twirl when I call their names out. Right? First of all, we have Veronica Sims. She acts as our secretary. Frank McMahon, who McMahon, who's our treasurer. Now, he was on the door, so he probably all Judith King, she's coordinated proceedings. Nazarene Rafiq, she looks after social media and publicity. And last but by no means least is Maureen Hanrahan, who's our events organiser and still I say unofficial progress chaser and tends to crack the whip occasionally. One of our primary aims of the competition is to raise money for charity, and we are very pleased that the Mayor of Bedford has once again accepted the invitation to be here tonight and to present a cheque to the charity we're supporting this year. Dave Hodgson is the elected Mayor of Bedford and now is in his third term, so I'm not going to try and promote him politically today. He doesn't need it. He's already there. He was re-elected last Mayor. Previously, he's been in his present office since, you've been in your 2009 you were elected, as Mayor in the first place. But he's been at Bedford Borough Council since 2002. He wasn't born in Bedford, but he's been here since the age of 9 and can therefore claim to be a Bedfordian.
12 years.
He can also claim to know a lot about Bedford, and before he presents the cheque, he's agreed to say a few words to us and tell us a little bit more about Bedford. And I'd like to hand over to you, Ned.
Well, thank you very much. It's really good to hear, first of all, that the competition is going to happen next year. And it's down to individuals like yourself and the committee, Philip, who take on things like this, that we've got such a good cultural offer in Bedford. And it's great to be here in the Quarry Theatre. I can never remember how long it's. I think it's less than a year. It's only summer we came here. And isn't this a wonderful example of a new theatre? And I'm always amazed when I come here that the meshing on the top to allow the boys to walk and do the lighting without the scariness of falling. I am told they have to empty their pockets of mobile phones because you can lose mobile phones. And this year, this venue was the Centre for Bedford, which is another excellent example of cultural offer in Bedford. And we've also got Bedford Film Festival as well that's happened, and I believe sometime next month I had a film, they were voting on which was the most popular film, and some of us had to put our ideas in. I put Blazing Saddles, and they're very worried about the... as I moved from westerns to comedy in my youth. And of course some of the images in there are a bit worrying, and so they're very worried about the political correctness of showing Blazing Saddles. But we are going to show it for a charity event. So lots of things happen. But the amazing thing is the number of volunteers that get involved. How many things are done by volunteers? Very early on in 2009, when I got elected, I said it would be a really good thing to have a reception to ask for 2 volunteers from all the different organisations that give their time. And somebody from the Council for Voluntary Service said, we know of 650 different groups and we don't think we know them all. So it became a good idea to a budget problem. And we haven't managed to do that. So I think it's great that we've got this. I thank you very much for all the readers and for the committee that organise it. And thank you for asking me to do something that politicians like to give away money is always a good thing. And so I appreciate that. And if you do want to ever promote me politically, Philip, I'm quite happy to be promoted. But thanks for inviting me. It's really good at going from strength to strength. One of the things I should say when I'm up here, if we can help actually promoting it on our website, please get in touch. And the borough will try to put it out on our email list just to see if we can get it wider recognition and to give even more work for the volunteers that you've got doing the meeting. So we can double the number of entries next year. It causes you a real headache, but wouldn't that good news? Thank you very much for inviting me. Well done to everybody for organising it. I think we're going to... I'll put it up so I can have the cheque to hand over too.
All right. The charity that we are supporting this year is the Beanstalk charity. And I'd like Stephanie Field, who's from the Beanstalk charity, to come forward and accept the cheque, please.
Can I hold the cheque? Stephanie's son has the same birthday as me.
Okay, so I'd just like to take a few minutes of your a time, if that's okay, just to tell you a bit about Beanstalk. Obviously, firstly, thank you very much for the cheque, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I've explained a bit about Beanstalk. So Beanstalk is a literacy charity that was formed just over 40 years ago by a magistrate in London, Susan Belgrave, who saw young men in particular coming through the court who were illiterate. And she thought, by the time we get here, it's too late. We need to get in at the bottom and inspire reading in our young people. So just her went into a school and started reading with the young children in what we would now call year 2. So they're sort of 6, 7-year-olds. They've got the basic understanding of words, but it's that inspiration of reading. So she wanted to make reading fun. So through her setting up the charity, it's grown and grown over the 40 years. It's now, there's over 2,900 volunteers across England supporting children in schools. We have 17 area offices, and Bedford is the latest one. It's been going for just about a year. We have about 28 volunteers in Bedfordshire itself, supporting 84 children in 14 schools, which is amazing. Each volunteer spends half an hour twice a week with 3 children, and those 3 children get an hour's quality adult reading time. They play games. If they like the football, then we'll bring in the football page from the local newspaper because the MK Dons won a match, or they like the rugby. Anything to inspire those children to want to read. We play games because they don't realise they're reading if you're playing tops trumps with them, but they are. And it is just that quality time that more and more children aren't getting, whether it's because they're a single parent family or they're a working mum family, or whether there just isn't time in a busy life of playing sport and doing other homework. It's very sad that there are, last year 63,000 children in England left primary school under the expected age of reading for their age. And Beanstalk can do something about that. The cheque itself will pay for a reading helper to go into a school and read with a child for a year, but we're also supported by Save the Children at the moment, and Save the Children will pay for another 2 children to go with that reading helper. So that reading helper will have 3 children, which is led from this. We're going to go to a new school and say we can offer you a reading helper for nothing, which is an amazing opportunity for 3 children in that school. So thank you very much. It really will make a difference to children in Bedford or Bedfordshire. It's probably going to be Kempston because that's an area where we've got a reading helper ready to go. So we want to put her in school as soon as possible. I just wanted to read you a couple of quotes from schools that have got reading helpers in them. So this is from an inclusion manager in a school. She says, Beanstalk is about getting the special magic back into reading, encouraging children to read for enjoyment and relaxation. There is a unique bond between the reading helper and the child, where they spend quality time talking and playing games to enrich children's everyday language. And just another short one. Says, it's all about the quality of the reading helper. They sprinkle our children with magical fairy dust and open up a wonderful world of books to them. So thank you very much for your donation. It will make a real difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was very interesting and just shows how worthwhile Beanstalk is and how worthwhile our competition is, so that we can provide you with money. And thank you, Mayor, for presenting the cheque. Right, we're now going to move on to the first of the awards presentations. This is now the winner of the Bedford Prize. We decided after the last competition that we should actually try and encourage Bedford writers to enter, and the way we thought we'd do it was to actually have a special prize for them. And to qualify, you actually have to be living within the borough of Bedford. Now, the borough of Bedford is actually quite extensive, I say, is it 165,000
People? Yep.
That's, so it's quite a number of, quite a catchment. And we've had 47 stories from Bedford, which is a reasonable number. Margaret Norwich is here. Again, sorry, can't see you. You're right at the front.
Haven't escaped.
And she agreed to be the judge for the competition. I'll just say a few words about her. Margaret actually was born in the USA, but she's chosen to actually set up home in a village just outside Bedford. But it's very much within the Bedford borough. Margaret's first association with the writing competition was when she interviewed Sophie Hannah last year at the Trinity Theatre. Sophie Hannah is a crime, or mystery writer I should say, that's probably a better description, and she agreed to be interviewed and answer questions, and Margaret acted as the interviewer and did very well. Thank you very much. Having studied liberal arts at Vassar College, New York, she came over to England to read English at Girton College, Cambridge. And she's since lectured in English literature at the De Montfort and Cranfield universities. So with this background, I think there's no doubt about her eligibility to be able to judge the Bedford stories. I think we can say that, well, there's a saying, isn't there, that USA and Britain are two countries separated by a common language. Well, I think in the case of Margaret, we can say that she epitomises a link between two countries that might otherwise be separated by a common language. Right, as I said, there were 14 stories altogether, and she read all of them. So that's good, big feat. Yeah, a lot of effort there. Thank you very much. And I'm sure you'll tell us just how difficult it was to arrive at the winner. So I'll now ask you, Margaret, if you'll come forward, please, and present the cheque, announce the winner, I say, and present the cheque.
Thank you very much, Philip, and thank you very much for your kind words as well. Quite a lot to live up to. I have to say, first of all, I'm just delighted to be here this evening to celebrate the formidable literary talent in our town. The only thing that was difficult about my job was choosing the winner, and I'd like to thank all the readers who helped me to do that. We certainly have a lively literary community already in Bedford, and with the help of Beanstalk, we'll be training up the next generation. So I think we have a lot to look forward to in Bedford. The shortlisted stories also suggest that love is very much alive and kicking in our town. The shortlisted stories, and I'm going to say a few words about them in alphabetical order by the author of the stories, are Suspicious Minds by Emma Dello, a modern story in the tradition of O. Henry, but with a nod to Elvis in the title, in which a young woman doubts her lover's intentions and only learns too late the strength of his devotion to her. The second shortlisted story is Memento Mori in Malta by Phyllis Dixon, a beautifully written and evocative account of a woman's brush with her romantic past in an exotic setting redolent of love and death. The next story is From Delhi to Bedford by Michelle O'Connell, a carefully crafted and moving memoir of a young couple's journey to a new country and culture, a journey made magical by blossoming and sustained romantic love. And the last shortlisted story is Foul Means by Jessie Perrin, and I hope I've said that name correctly, a warm and charming story of romance in later life by whatever means, fair or foul, short, sweet, and witty. You can imagine how difficult to choose a winner from 4 such wonderful shortlisted stories. but that was my job, and so I can announce that the winner is From Delhi to Bedford by Michelle O'Connell.
Yes, I heard a joke today, and so
Oh,
I
a
thought
joke is good. I like a joke.
First of all, I'd like to say that the retirement centre is not just for old fuddy-duddies, but it's now been renamed the Rothway Education Centre, so anyone can go. Am I right? Yes. Yes, I'm pleased to have won this to give a voice to my character, because it's actually a true story. I just wrote it. And I think it's topical in a world where a lot of people move from where they're born to where they want to live. For instance, I didn't like France, so I came to live here. And there's a lot of people who... You're very welcome.
Standing ovation.
And there are a lot of people who come to France from England because they think they're going to have an easier life. And I know they're not, so it's the topic of my books. And I've got 8 novels in my computer, which nobody has seen. So my joke is, a man goes to a church, and every week, he begs the saint, and he says, please, 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 can I win the lottery? And he says that week after week. And after months, the saint is fed up, he gets off his pedestal, and says to the man, please, 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 buy a lottery ticket. And this is my ticket.
I'm sure you can't wait now for me to read the story to you with that taster. I'm going to do my best, Michelle, with your story. And if I make any mistakes with the pronunciation, please correct me. You can call out or tell me later.
Thank you.
Pathy glanced into the dim shop where a girl was unrolling a sari for a customer. Which one, uncle? The one in orange. Pathy peered again. His eyes settled on a girl with a pleasant face and a milky complexion. His heart skipped a beat. Yes, yes, uncle, I will marry her. The young man's mind soared above the swarming market, somersaulted above the mess of roofs, eager to fly away, escape his narrow life, and begin anew with the girl in the orange sari. They headed for the Delhi bus station. A cow barring their way, his uncle turned to him and lifted a hand. You won't tell your father that you have seen her, will you? Rejuvenated, the uncle's eyes twinkled, a grin revealing 2 brown teeth. I did just the same when I was your age. The old skin was so leathery, the white Rajasthani moustache and turban so frayed that Pathik struggled to bring up the vision of a young groom. I found out where your auntie lived and rode to her farm, the old man cackled. I peeped over the wall and saw her sitting with her sisters. His yellow eyes misted over. That was the day I fell in love with her. Love. PR. The magical word, thank you, Michelle. The magical word of films and songs. Pathik glanced back at the shop. Was he in love? His heart was beating rather fast, it was true, but how could it be? He had been told that it would take months, years even, until a man loved his wife. And yet, oh yes, I was smitten. After we were married, the army sent me to the Punjab. I wrote to her every day. I even sent her poems. Pathik tripped over a legless beggar who had wheeled himself under his feet. Beggars are a disgrace, said the old man. It's about time Mrs. Gandhi got rid of them. That day, Mrs. Gandhi's government was the least of Pathik's concerns. Uncle, does the girl in the orange sari know of my plans? Her name is Kalyani. Kalyani, the sound trickled on Pathik's tongue like honey. Has Kalyani been told that I intend for us to leave India? Certainly, women always spend the first few months of their married lives crying for their mother. What would you do in England with a wife who cries all the time? Don't worry, she's agreed to follow you. Really? Pathik was puzzled. But why England, Pathik? Why? Insisted the old man as they reached the bus station. When we've had such trouble getting rid of the English. Stay here in Gurgaon. Our farm is doing well. The 4 buffaloes feed everyone, and we can grow enough wheat and beans for your new family. Yes, why England? Pathik asked himself as he searched for the Gurgaon bus. Was it because the 60s were modern times? Because he wanted to be part of that great we can do anything feeling sweeping the world? Was it because his very name, Pathik, meant the traveller? Don't miss out a page. They sat in silence. The Gurgaon bus was far too noisy to hold a conversation. The driver beeped his horn at every dog, pig, goat, cow, and camel cart they met along the 20-mile track, snaking out of Delhi through fields and eucalyptus forests. Coughing dust, they walked home along a sunken path lined with dung cakes and rushes. Pathik's resolve weakened as the low evening sun spun gold over ploughed fields. The last rays bounced off the brass pots women carried on their heads. Laughing, they pushed buffaloes in front of them. Inside the walls of the farm compound, a calf slept, curled up in the sand. Under a thatched shelter, servants busied themselves grinding wheat for that night's chapatis. A scent of cumin and coriander floated out of the house. Walking past the kitchen window, women's chatter greeted the 2 men. An auspicious date had already been chosen for the wedding. Pathik trusted his parents' choice. His elder brother Badri and his wife were happy together. Watching his 2 nephews, playing with the calf as he and Badri had done, Pathik knew he was expected to plough the same furrow as his ancestors. Not him. He wanted more. The world was changing for the better, and he wanted to be part of it. December arrived at last, wedding season. Riding a richly caparisoned horse, Pathik headed a noisy procession of family and friends all the way to Kalyani's village. Preceded by a band of drummers, he reached the gate of her farm. At last, kneeling on the dais, light-headed after 3 days of purification in the Shiva temple, he watched Kalyani come to him step by slow step, resplendent in red and gold, under an arch of flowers held above her by her sisters. She settled next to him, lifted her veil and smiled. Her eyes sparkled. Choked with emotion, he forgot to smile back. Dawn was just rising when Kalyani accomplished the last rite. Holding on to Pathik's coat, she took 7 steps along a small fire, around a small fire even, following him as she would do in life, like the 2 wheels of a cart, the priest had said. Pathik could not wait to be with his young bride, but according to custom, it was only on the 2nd night that alone in the nuptial chamber, Pathik drew the heavy bolt across the door, turned to his wife and asked the question which had puzzled him for so long. Kalyani, why did you agree to come with me to England? Crouching against the bedstead, like a doe before the kill, Kalyani didn't answer. She bit her fists, eyes huge with fear, unable to speak. Tentative, compassionate, Pathik sat on the bed and held her. Above all, be patient, make sure she is ready, his brother had advised him. Don't rush her. Dizzy with the rustle of her silk, the softness of her arms and her perfume, Pathik felt dislocated, his body exploding into a million particles of light. He held her chastely and surrendered to fate, his spirit merging with hers. After a very long time, Pathik cleared his throat. There is something I must tell you. He looked into Kalyani's damp eyes. You know that I am an accountant, but in order to get to England, I have had to agree to do manual work. Kalyani took his hand in hers, opened it, and studied the soft skin of his fingers with a mischievous grin. Pathik added quickly, I do help with the harvest. I'm quite strong. She kissed each of his fingers in turn. What do you think you will have to do? They build cars over there on assembly lines. He lowered his eyes. I don't know, actually. I'm a bit scared. Kalyani's hand tightened over his. She hid her face in his shoulder and spoke so low that he could hardly hear her. Pathik, I too have something to tell you. I am so sorry, but I am not. Her voice was strangled. An uncle raped me, she confessed in a sob. There will be no blood. His first reaction was to push her away, tell her he felt betrayed. Instead, he held on to her, his fingers digging into her skin until his anger subsided. Which one? Was he here today? You wait, I'll... No, Pathik, please. It's no use. We owe him. I've warned my sisters. Words caught in her throat. There's nothing we can do. Swallowing his rage, he tentatively lifted a hand, stroked her hair, and let her cry out all her tears, promised that he would not touch her, not tonight, that he would wait. They had a whole life ahead of them, didn't they? A good life, just the two of them, the two wheels of a cart. Kalyani's dowry covered the price of plane tickets from Delhi. Neighbours, family and servants assembled in silence in the yard of the farm to watch them pile cases filled with spices and homegrown produce onto the horse cart. Pathik's eyes were drawn to the terraced roof. How many summer nights had he spent there under the bowl-shaped moon with his gang of cousins? A long breath left his body. It was time to carve out his own destiny. Small brown faces were watching him from the parapet. The boys would be exhorted to study and get a good job like Uncle Pathik. Failure was not an option. At the coach station, while their luggage was being strapped to the roof of a bus, a wistful Badri hugged him, slapped him on the back, and joked, when you come back, I will pick you up in my car. Pathik nodded, his heart about to break. He summoned up a smile. A car? Gurgo did not even have roads. When the newlyweds reached Doncaster on Boxing Day, nothing had prepared them for the pervasive cold, the empty streets, the barren drabness, and the ghostly faces which all look the same. Orphaned, they wandered about in a daze, wondering what they had done. Then they found out that Pathik was to work in a coal pit. While her husband toiled at the bottom of his inferno, Kalyani waited alone, too scared to go out. When Pathik came home at night, she knelt by the tub in front of the coal fire and washed the grime from his body. Exhausted, he still found the strength to kiss away the filth that had sullied her. Out of that wretchedness, their love grew, filling their soul with light, with warmth, with hope. For 6 months, Pathik hurled his anger and shame at the rock, buoyed by Kalyani's smile, waiting for him at the end of the day. Finally, their nightmare at an end, they fled Doncaster and asked for 2 tickets for a town where they knew they would find kindred souls, spiritual support, and spices, but don't get your hopes up, it's Bradford. But Lord Shiva had other plans. Pathik found himself in Bedford instead, assembling pumps on the factory floor of Allen's Engineering while searching for an accountancy job worthy of his qualifications. At long last, he was able to abandon his boiler suit and, clad in smart grey cloth, take possession of a wooden desk and a metal filing cabinet. When this should have been the end of his tribulations, he found it was another test. "Oh, Lord Shiva," pleaded Pathik one morning when he could take no more, watching spirals of incense lift his prayers from the home shrine. "You gave me a good wife, and I thank you for it. You gave me the strength to work in the mine and taught me humility. But Lord, you know my soul. Please tell me what to do." Put in charge of salaries, Pathik had soon realized that he was paid less than the dim typists in beehives and miniskirts who clustered around the tea trolley, boasting of baby sham-fueled nights of sex. It was humiliating. That Friday, Pathik knocked on the glass door of the boss's office. Mr. Arbuthnot, a mastiff of a man, received him from a noxious cloud of smoke. "What's the matter?" growled the old man, ash dropping on his pinstripe suit. Pathik hesitated. He fingered the thin payslip envelope inside his trouser pocket, fighting the urge to turn back. "Come on, man, speak up. I haven't got all day." Pathik visualized himself inside a beam of light sent down by Lord Shiva and stood tall. "Sir, I am very sorry, but I should be paid according to my responsibilities. I know I receive less than... Arbuthnot's smirk prevented him from carrying on. "Listen, Chandrani." The piggy eyes fixed Pathik with contempt. "I was good enough to give you a job where you don't have to get your hands dirty. You should be thanking me. Now we'll talk no more of this outburst. Close the door when you go." "What do you mean you have resigned?" Kalyani's bangles jangled in anger. "How are we going to pay the rent? Oh, Pathik, what have you done?" "I am sorry. We work hard. We deserve a proper life." Pathik placed both hands on her shoulder. "Pyari? Pyari, beloved. It is time we found you a job too. But how?" Pathik hesitated. He felt disloyal at the decision he had come to. Kalyani was so beautiful in her blue sari. He took her in his arms, drew her to him, and ran his hand over her breasts in a sudden rush of guilt and desire. "Pathik," said Kalyani, "what are you doing? Come here, let me show you how much I love you." 2 hours later, Kalyani followed her husband to the high street and into the tall Art Deco building of E.P. Roses. With a bout of sudden confidence, Pathik led his wife to the top floor, where he ordered a pot of tea for 2. Half a crown for tea and a portion of cake was extortionate, but it was what English people did. It was time to fit in. "You'll never get a job if you don't look like them," said Pathik, pushing the cake towards her. Kalyani nodded meekly. Moments later, they stepped down the grand staircase, glancing down the rows of drab suits, drab skirts, and drab jackets. After an awkward search, they settled on a couple of navy blue dresses, which Kalyani tried on while Pathik gathered up armfuls of her discarded sari, shutting his heart to the glorious sense of sex, perfume, and incense emanating from its folds. "What do you think?" Kalyani stepped out of the booth, self-consciously pulling at her knee-length dress, her face flushed with shame. She had never before exposed her legs. Unable to look his wife in the eye, Pathik crammed the last of the sari into a bag and turned to the sales assistant. "She'll keep the dress on. I will pay for everything now." "Oh, Pathik, please, give me time." Pathik remained immune to his wife's pleas. He grumbled at her with a callous determination he did not feel. "That's what you are wearing now, my dear. We are here to stay." Phew, it's warm. To think it was snowing when we left Bedford. Pathik spotted their luggage on the carousel at Delhi Airport and winced as he hoisted the cases onto the trolley. Filled with presents, they were heavy, but he had been away for decades. He had to make an impression. "Badri says he's too old to drive, so Raj will pick us up. I hope we recognize him." Fanning herself with her boarding pass, Kalyani ran a hand over her damp grey hair. "Of course we will. You Skyped him only last week." "Uncle, over here." A young man dressed in white waved from the barrier. He bowed and touched his uncle's feet and greeted his auntie the same way before leading them to an SUV parked on the pavement. He put the luggage in the boot. "I'm glad I took the safari. I'd never have fitted all those bags in the BMW." Once they hit the freeway, Pathik glanced at his nephew and saw himself at that age, ambitious, cocky, and ready to take on the world. "2 cars, hey? You've done well." Uncle, it's been hard work. Everyone wants to be a mover and a shaker in India." Raj yanked the wheel to avoid a rickshaw. "Life's easier in England." Pathik's jaw dropped at the cheek of it. He swallowed hard. Did his nephew really think he'd had it easy? Then again, he only had himself to blame. His letters home had always bordered on the boastful. He shot a wide-eyed glare back at Kalyani. She patted his shoulder with a benevolent smile. "Shame the girls aren't coming," Raj said. "Plenty of time when they finished university." Pathik took deep breaths of thick, acrid air. The traffic was dreadful. Clutching the dashboard, he looked for familiar landmarks, but Gurgaon had become a suburb of Delhi. "Is there anything left of the farm?" Everything had gone. Eucalyptus forests had given way to roads and farms to high-rise flats, but for a few brown pigs rooting around parked cars, they could have been in Manhattan. Raj waggled his head. "We sold to a developer. He built 5 apartment blocks on our land and gave us the biggest top flat," he grinned. "Plenty of room for you and Auntie." Bereft, Pathik was overcome with yearning for the fields of wheat, the lazy buffaloes, and women returning from the well, pots of gold balancing on their heads. Yes, this was the progress he'd wished for. This was what the future looked like. Aching for remnants of his past, his heart did a flip. Preserved inside the tentacles of a banyan tree, the old Shiva temple was still there. What you give, you receive. It is the law of karma, the old priest had said. Pathik had tried to be a good man. He'd worked hard, and so had Kalyani in her post office. But financial success was a double-edged sword. He would boast to Badri, of course, and Badri would boast back. But tomorrow, he would go and give thanks to Lord Shiva for the best thing of all, for the love that had grown over the years, the love that had kept the sparkle alive in Kalyani's eyes and her smile warm.
Thank you, Margaret, for reading that story. I think hearing it out loud, as was Margaret's reading it, it sounds even better than when I read it myself. You know, it just seems to come alive. It's terrific. Thank you very much indeed, and well done, Michelle. Right, we now come to the climax of this evening, the announcement of the winners of the Bedford Prize. Sorry, wrong one. Right, of the actual short story competition itself. I'm going to keep you in suspense for a bit longer while I say a few words about Lee Russell, who is the judge for, was the judge for the 2014 competition and agreed to remain as judge for the 2015 competition. And I think there can't be any better endorsement of her support for the competition than her desire to do that. And you know, it's not, as I said before, judging is a difficult job, and I was so pleased that she took it on. And it's also, she is very keen to encourage writers and give, you know, this is something I think she'll talk about when she actually makes the presentations. Now, it mustn't be overlooked that in the last year she's been extremely busy. I'm quite a reader of Lee Russell's books, and there's been no fewer than 3 of them being published since we last met. And I'll give you a list of them so you can make a note and go out and get them. There's Race to Death, which was published in May, Blood Axe in September, and Murdering in December. Now, I think Murdering, actually, Lee, is probably the best one you've done so far. I thought it was terrific, really did. Also, there's another book that can come out as well. Yes, in February. 9th of February, it'll be available in Kindle and paperback, so I'm giving you a good plug here. And I can't wait myself. I shall be putting my name down for it. I'll actually be away abroad, but I'll be able to download it on the Kindle. It's not going to be the usual characters, Geraldine Steele or Ian Peterson. It's actually going to be a new one, Lucy Hill. So this will be really interesting. And I think also it's actually moving slightly away from being police crime. Is that right?
Yes.
But I can't say any more than that. I haven't read it. I'm not sure where you are on the TV series, but I see on your website that you are, the Geraldine Steele books have been optioned to be made into a TV series. I'm very interested to see what happens in the future. Now, that's just the writing side of it. Lee also manages to fit in her writing, giving interviews, tutoring in creative writing, and giving talks around the country while continuing to be a wife and mother of 2 daughters. A remarkable lady, which makes us who organise the competition feel all the more privileged that she is the judge and that she is here tonight. I'll now like to hand over to you, Lee, and finally you're going to find out who the winners and runners-up are.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Philip, for those kind words. I was very, very excited when I arrived this evening to discover that the particular charity being supported this year is Beanstalk. I spent 15 years working as a Senko in a school supporting children who are struggling to learn to read, and it is a huge, huge problem for some children. And I'll just say really quickly, a lot of people think of these things as being just reading and spelling difficulties. It is so much more than that. Because if you're 6, 7, 8, and all your friends are taking off on the reading scheme and you're not, you think you're stupid. You might be actually the brightest child in your class, but you have that baggage, and that is a huge amount of baggage that you carry with you. It is so important that the resources are put in to young children so they don't have those problems and don't have that weight to carry with them through life. So I was very, very excited. It's an issue that is very close to my heart, and I'm so thrilled that I'm helping to support Beanstalk. So I was also very excited this evening. Very kind of Philip to mention my brand new series. The first book is published on the 9th of February, but Waterstones somehow, with their magic, have managed to get some copies here tonight. So if anyone is interested in having a look at my new series, you can pick up and have a look at the first book before it's even published. So that was very exciting for me. And it's a very strange thing because obviously I've known for a long time that that book is going to be out. I have some advanced copies at home, but to actually see it on the table, brought here by Waterstones, it's real. And it makes me think of the lady whose beautiful story we just heard, with all your novels on your computer. And having heard your story, it had a beautiful shape to it. Why are you not sharing the rest of your novels with us? Think about it. You could be seeing your books in one.
I think I needed the...
Yes, thank you very much for reading that to us. I really enjoyed that. The television series is in development, Philip, so I'm as interested as you are when that's going to happen. So I was going to say just a very few words about what I look for when I'm judging a short story competition, and forgive me if this is very similar to what I said last year, but it doesn't really change. The first important element for me in a short story is the hook. I have to want to read on. And particularly with a short story. In a novel, we can be prepared to give it time, see what happens, let things develop. In a short story, we really want to be there in that world pretty quickly. A hook could be anything. It could be a dramatic incident. It could be an intriguing character, something humorous. But there has to be something that engages our interest straight away. The second essential element in any writing, I think, is the quality of the prose. And there are different sorts of prose, and the quality could be very different in different stories, but there has to be something in the prose, the fluency, the range of vocabulary, they all matter. Finally, I would say that writing should be fairly concise and compelling, and to anyone here who writes, I would always mention George Orwell's advice. He said, if it is possible to cut a word out, always cut it out. If you don't need it there, it shouldn't be there. And the final point I was going to say was a short story needs a sense of structure to leave the reader with some sense of closure. And I did feel very much listening to, I'm sorry I've forgotten your name, but listening to your story, there was that lovely feeling at the end, wasn't there? That yes, we'd gone through the cycle of that story and it had come to an ending, and we felt, sad that the story was over, but satisfied to leave it there. So that was just a few words about what I look for in a short story. And now we come to the announcement. I have the first, second and third, first, second and third places here. I will read them in reverse order. And I have to echo what Margaret said. How do you choose? It is so difficult. I mean, to me, everybody who entered the competition is a winner because you wrote your story, you did it, and you had that faith in yourself, that self-belief to send it off, which takes a lot of guts. And that feeling doesn't go away. I mean, I have to stop and think. I think I've got about 9, 10, 11, about a dozen books published, I don't know. Each book is nerve-wracking. I'm absolutely petrified at the moment because I've got this new series with a new publisher, and it's like starting out all over again, and so that feeling doesn't go away. It does take guts, and congratulations for finishing your stories and sending them off. So, in third place, we have, and I have an envelope here with a certificate, and something else, I think, in it. I don't have the writers' names, I'm sorry, but the story is called A Little Luck. This is fun, actually, because the judging process is obviously anonymous. I don't know who the writers are, but I've actually met Joe before, so hurrah. And I had a couple of, well done, thank you. Had a couple of comments. I with this story, I really felt I should have seen that twist at the end coming, but it came as a surprise, and that was fantastic. And presumably you kind of thought about that, didn't you? It was a clever twist that I didn't see coming. So well done with that. I thought the characters were very well formed. Although I didn't particularly like the main character, but it was still engaging and I wanted to read on, so well done, fantastic. and conditions. Again, I don't know who...
I'm not the author, I'm the husband of the author.
Well, I felt this was a very lively narrative, a satisfying twist. Character and atmosphere were very well drawn. It was amusing. It was fun, but it had a serious point as well, which I think is so difficult to do. I'd love to be able to write like that. I do encourage anyone who has been placed in a competition, if you are ever submitting to agents, to publishers, whatever, do mention this, because it helps to give you credibility. So as well as the actual achievement in itself, it could lead on to something else. So congratulations to your good lady wife. And now we come to the first prize, which I'm going to be reading aloud. I hope I do it justice. And the first prize I awarded to a story called Roller Coaster. By some amazing twist of fate that you couldn't put into a book because nobody would believe it. But this gentleman actually has the very first copy of my new book that I've ever signed. Okay, so I have your envelope here. And what I found interesting about this story was that the narrative gave us outward events, but there was also an inner journey for the character. And I found, again, the end was surprising, it was a bit unnerving. Very strong narrative line, character development. It was very skillful, I felt, in a short story. Present tense is a little bit unusual, but it gave immediacy, and it worked very well, I thought, in this narrative. But you will hear it now, and so I hope I do it justice. Thank you. So well done. Now comes the most important bit, not me wittering on, but the actual story. Right, here we go. I wake in fear. Carrie is shaking me, and there is a knock on the door. A muffled voice is saying something about towels. Carrie whispers, "There's someone outside." The yellow light from around the bathroom door that we'd left on for Lily helps me to remember where we are. In America, in Orlando, on the 5th floor of a cheap hotel. The sharp knock again, tap, 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 insistent, almost rude. I have your towels. I sit up, naked. I whisper too, "We have towels." Of course we have. It's gone midnight. He's got the wrong room. Tell him to go away. Why are we whispering? It's like we're hiding. In the dark, I sweep the floor with my foot to find my dressing gown. Instead, I catch my toe on the solid leg of the armchair. Crap. Call reception. What? I struggle to organise my dressing gown in the dark. Call reception, ask them if they sent someone. Just tell him he has the wrong room. It takes me 2 attempts to guess the right armhole, and then the belt's on the inside. Why would anyone order towels in the middle of the night? Just ask them. Tap, tap, tap. Ring them. I edge to the peephole. Outside on the balcony walkway is a black man in a yellow t-shirt. I can't see any towels. He seems too far away to be able to reach the door. But as I watch, his arm lifts and telescopes towards me. Tap, tap, tap. "We haven't ordered any towels," I call through the door. I sound scared. "Please go away." Why the hell did I say please? Is that reception? Carrie puts on her best BBC voice. "We have someone here who says he's delivering towels." I look again. He's still there, framed against the neon of Orlando. "Thank you." Carrie puts the phone down. What did they say? They asked if we'd ordered any towels. And I told them we hadn't. Is he still out there? Has anyone ordered any towels? They didn't say. But that was the point. Carrie jumps out of bed. "Oh, for goodness sake, I'll open it. He's just got the wrong room." "No, I've told him to go." She pushes me aside and looks through the peephole. "He's gone," she says, then climbs back into bed and beats her pillow. "Are you coming, my hero?" She doesn't wait for an answer, and I am left in the dark, my dressing gown gaping. Lily, across the room, has slept through the whole thing. Is that it? 2 minutes of panic, and I'm expected to just doze off again. I drop my gown and get back into bed. I want to back into Carrie, but a frosty line has been drawn down the middle of the mattress. I'm wide awake. The curtain edges filter the beams from the night traffic on Route 4. Vertical orange stripes slide across the walls, marking uneven time. I wonder at the change the towel man has wrought over America. My theme park, family-friendly, big breakfast America, is gone. In its place, just a closed door away, is homeless America, gun-toting America, drugged-up America. Anybody could come up the open stairwell and along our landing. Anyone at all. Would I have felt the same if it was a white man or a woman? What did that say about me? Yesterday morning we'd had to call reception because Lily had closed the safe and then forgotten what code she'd used to lock it. We couldn't open it. The guy they'd sent had a small spanner, the size you use to tighten bicycle nuts. He'd clipped off a panel and just opened the safe. All that trust we'd misplaced in the numbers and the reassuringly noisy locking mechanism, gone. What was the difference with the door? It was no more than a paper palisade. Any number of cleaners would have a master swipe card they could pass to their boyfriends. The latch was on, but maybe they had a wrench or a screwdriver for that. And what would it have mattered anyway if Carrie had just opened up? I get up and furtively push the armchair up against the door. What are you doing now? I thought you were asleep. It was just a mistake. I dump my suitcase on the chair. Carrie sweeps back the sheet and goes to the bathroom, noisier than she needs to be. I think about reading, but I'd need the light. She comes back and sits heavily on the bed, lies down and tugs the sheet over herself. Putting the light on seems like a bad move. I lose track of time. If ever I approach sleep, the world conspires to frighten me fully conscious. A souped-up bike blasts down the freeway. A police siren wails out in the hot night. Footsteps, only one set, tread along the landing above. This is crazy. I can't remember ever feeling this scared. It's almost primeval, guttural. Where has it come from? In the other double bed, I can tell Lily is dreaming. Her breathing quickens and then relaxes. I'd like to think my fear is all for her, that I'm just concerned for my wife and child. The truth is, I can't feel past my own fear for me, who is closest to the door. I try to focus on something else, something that might let me drift off. I think about the theme park. It had been all right, not as stupidly busy as we might have expected, though that had brought its own problem. The big rides, the ones designed to scare the bejesus out of you, only had 20 or 30-minute queues. We couldn't say to Lily, "It's just too long a wait, sweetie," and find something tamer. Instead, there was a constant, semi-disguised three-way negotiation. Last week, when we watched it on YouTube, you said you'd do it. I guess I'll have to go on it if your father can't manage it. It's more your mother's thing. She's better with heights. I think we should eat early and then go on it at lunchtime when there's no queue. And then, I couldn't possibly go on it now. I've just eaten. Lily's dream was to go on the Rip Ride Rocket. Rocket because you can choose your own personal soundtrack to accompany you being hoisted 150 feet straight up before being thrown upside down and inside out over a half-mile of glossy red Meccano. It was never going to happen. How did she get to be so brave anyway? What is it with 10-year-old girls these days? When I was 10, girls did nothing more dangerous than roller skate. The perils of being an older parent. At 50, I'm expected to do something that I would have sensibly avoided at 21. Somewhere in the middle of the hot afternoon, Lily realised she was on a losing wicket and dropped down to my level of bravery, which tolerated queasy 3D shows and water rides. Water rides are all right. It was an okay day. But it's a long way to fly and a lot of money for just okay. Carrie had deflected Lily's disappointment at me. Maybe your father will be braver tomorrow. It was wrong to give her false hope. If Carrie had wanted a superhero, she should have married someone else. The air conditioning clicks. I jump as if jabbed by a cattle prod. The unit hums into life. My fear is still awake too. It occurs to me that I stored up all that fear during the day. Fear that somehow I'd have to ride the roller coaster. Fear that I'm a disappointing husband. Fear of how my little girl might see me. It's been slumbering just below the surface and all poured out when the towel man got the wrong room. I feel the truth of it. With the realization, my balloon of angst deflates. It morphs into something else, something sadder, something true. I tuck the feelings in and fall asleep. Early next morning, we're back at the theme park. It's the afternoon and hotter than the day before. I'm drying from the Jurassic Park ride, which has a splash finish, and my adrenaline is yet to burn off. There's a Blues Brothers show in a fake town square. We're sitting on some steps in the shade. It's a good show. Lily doesn't seem that interested. I guess you need to have seen the film. She's shoveling popcorn, pressing it into her mouth. There's been no begging to go on the big rides today. Carrie is already angling to leave, saying we shouldn't plan to stay late if we want to come in early tomorrow. Beyond the show, the red roller coaster mocks me, and my eyes are drawn above the dancing. It's metronomic, as one batch of screamers swoop out of the first drop. The batch ahead career and twist in the opposite direction. Is it really so high? The victims are tipped onto their backs for the haul up. Clack, clack, clack. It's entirely vertical. I count 13 seconds of suffering before they are ratcheted over and dumped downwards. I imagine the point at which I'd be all right, past peak fear. I guess it would be after the first 360 loop. All the riders survive. There are no medics racing to the ride exit, no body bags rolled into an ambulance. Instead, friends and families emerge from the production line, laughing and smiling, closer than before they got on. The ride has transformed them somehow. I think of other things men have been asked to do, other fears faced. Fighting for your girl, charging over mined beaches, last into the lifeboats. The Blues Brothers are in full swing. Everybody needs somebody. Everybody needs somebody, someone to love. Another batch of people, braver than me, climb to the start. I corral the last of my adrenaline. It's only fear. More people get killed crossing the road. Lily finishes her popcorn and hands me the box. What are we doing next? Would you like to go on the rocket? Carrie is waiting for us, holding our hats in the backpack. She's smiling. Did you see us? Lily asks, running to her. My legs feel like they belong to a 2-hour-old foal. My knees have lost their ability to lock. But I'm smiling too. I did, said Carrie. Was it fun? I taunt Lily. You screamed the whole time. You're supposed to scream, she says, and hugs me. At least I didn't say, oh my God, 20 times on the way up. I laugh and kiss her head. What now? Asks Carrie. Again, says Lily. All right, I say. The afternoon blurs by, it really does, spent tumbling and rolling in the Florida sky. After the second go on the rocket, Lily pulls me to the Dragon Challenge, another of yesterday's failures. I have the hang of this now. You live somewhere inside the fear. Don't try to control it. We run straight from the exit back into the queue, waving for Carrie to come too, and she does. Lily climbs into a seat ahead of us, and I'm between them both. Feet dangling, we're clicked up to the start. I've never heard Carrie scream before. We stop for a cool, giant ice cream, then hit the rides on into the dusk. Rather than head back to the cheap hotel snack bar, we dive into Bubba Gump's and order more food than we can possibly eat. But I don't care. Carrie sips her wine and takes my hand. She has a look about her that I haven't seen in a long time. We share a long kiss. Lily covers her eyes and says, ew. The last bus has gone by the time we're ready to leave, so we get a cab. Carrie leans her tired weight into me all the way to the hotel. As I turn from paying the driver, I can see there are a lot of people crowded around the reception desk inside. It's late for a check-in rush, but then I guess planes arrive at all hours. I'm glad we can go straight to our room. I'm ready for sleep. Lily hits the 5th floor button in the lift. When the doors open, she finds a last nugget of energy and skips out and round the corner onto the open balcony. When we follow, we almost bump into her. She's just standing there. Carrie's hand tightens on mine. Our room is the second one, but further along, there are cops. Before them, a yellow tape is stretched across the balcony. The camera flashes out onto the landing at measured intervals from an open door. I let go of Carrie's hand and fumble in my wallet for the card key. A cop has spotted us. He ducks under the tape and walks our way. Lily moves behind me. I just want to get into our room and go to swipe the card. Sir, I need a word with you, sir. Sure, what's going on? I looked down at his holster, open and one forward of his hip. When were you here last? We went to the park early. You see or hear anything strange last night? I look at Carrie. Someone knocked on our door after midnight. He said he had towels for us. You open up? No, we hadn't asked for any towels. He looked past me at Lily. I saw him through the peephole. Good, that's good. I'll need to get a description. Behind him, beyond the tape, a waist-high stretcher is carelessly worked out of the door, knocking into the balcony wall. There is a sudden coolness in the breeze, and my gut feels heavy. You might want to get your little girl inside, sir. Carrie snatches the card from my hand and takes Lily in. The tape is torn away, and the stretcher pushed towards me, a rhythmical clack at each turn of the wheel. Middle-aged guy. The cop gets out his notebook. On business, maybe. Cleaner found him, late afternoon. Strapped tightly to the stretcher is a black bag, so tight that you could see the man must have been very overweight. Clack, clack, clack. He was knifed. From the wound, I'm thinking it's unlikely you'd have heard much. Clack, clack, clack. Rare in this district, but it's easy for anyone to get up off the streets. A few more seconds, that's all, and it'll be over. The cop and I squeeze up against the wall to let the stretcher by. But even so, the shiny black plastic brushes me as it passes, just a toothy silver zip where the face belonged. I feel the world turn and my stomach lose its weight. There is a sensation of falling, and the cop grabs my arm. Let's go into your room, sir. My knees won't lock as he takes me inside. I imagine people screaming around me. I'm in free fall. 10 minutes later, the cop stands up to leave. There'll be someone guarding the scene tonight. No need to check out like all those others. You did the right thing, sir, not opening that door. I was afraid. Sometimes a little fear is a good thing. Try to enjoy your holiday, sir. He leaves. Carrie and Lily sit huddled together on the bed. Help me move the chair up against the door. Carrie comes right over. Name, thank you very much.
The writer's name was actually Richard Buxton. Thank you, Lee. Again, it makes a complete difference when you hear a story being read like that. I read it several times, and I just thought about the way you analysed fear in its different forms. Instinctive fear and fear of just danger fear, and one he overcame, the other he obeyed and saved his life. So, yeah, great. Thank you very much. Right, we've now come really to the end of the formal part of the evening, and in a couple of minutes we can return to the bar and have a chat over a drink. I know I could do with one. But before doing that, I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about the competitions we're going to have in 2016. Now, next year we're going to have a new judge for the story competition, and that is Toby Litt, who's sitting in front of me here. Toby actually is born in Amtil, and for those of you who don't know the Bedford area, Amtil is around about 10 miles? 10 miles outside of Bedford. He went to Bedford Modern School and now lectures in creative writing at Bedford College, a part of London University. He's got has an impressive number of published books to his name, both full-length novels and collections of short stories. We're all looking forward to working with him in 2016 for the short story competition. Each year we like to add something new, and this year we're launching for the first time a poetry competition. And Ian McEwen, who up there, please stand up. Ian McEwen is going to be the judge of that competition. At the moment we haven't actually worked out all the details of it, but it will run along the same timeline as the short story competition. And as far as we know, it's going to be something like 40 lines a maximum. And I'm not sure whether we're going to have it on a theme or whether it's just a general theme. But we'll be publishing the or putting on our website all the details about how that competition is going to work. Ian also holds a lot of poetry events in Bedford, in this particular theatre here as well. And I think if you look around, possibly you may find leaflets actually advertising some of those if you want to have a look and come along. The Bedford Prize has been a great success this year, and we're going to obviously have it again in 2016. And Margaret, again, has agreed to be the judge, and thank you very much, Margaret, for agreeing to do that. It's going to be good fun again, I think. Now, I'm sure you're probably getting fed up with the sound of my voice, but I just want you to bear with me for a little while longer, because there are a lot of people I need to thank for making the 2015 competition a success and for enabling us to hold this awards ceremony. I'm not going to say thank you in any particular order, so don't feel snubbed if you're not first in the list. Right. Everybody's contribution has been truly fantastic, and everyone has given their contribution for nothing. So thank you very much. It's great. But there's no point in organising a competition if we don't receive entries. So first of all, I want to say to all the entrants, and I'm saying this now because we're being filmed, and there's going to be a video on YouTube very soon. I'm saying that to all the entrants. Thank you very much for choosing our competition. My second thank you is to Sean Doyle, who's hiding over here in the wings, and his film crew. They're from Bedford College, and it's part of their, I suppose, the training at Bedford College in media studies, is that correct? Yes. That they are here filming tonight, and it gives them pretty good experience, I think. Next, I want again to thank the readers. It might sound a bit boring, but there's no other way I've got to do it. I must say thank you once again. I roughly calculated that if we combined all the stories together, we would have had 1 million words. Now, that in itself gives us an idea of the task facing the reader, but we did divide it up into chunks, so we didn't actually say, you know, here's 1 million words, get on with it. And it made it far more manageable. Once again, it's great to see the Mayor here, and I thank you for lending your support and presenting the cheque to Beanstalk charity. I think you'll all agree that this venue we've got here tonight has been just right for this event. I'm not sure if she's here, but I think, oh, right up at the top there, good. I want to thank Jules Crossley, she's the theatre director, and her staff for being so helpful and friendly when we've been organising this evening. And I must not forget to thank Greg Sharp. Where is he? Where, Greg? Ah, there we are. He was tinkling on the ivory, or rather, he was playing the piano pretty excellently. Right, last but by no means least, it gives me great pleasure to thank the 2 judges involved in the 2015 competition. As I've said already, Margaret Norwich will once again be the judge of the Bedford Prize in 2016, so we'll continue to be in touch with her, but we're giving Lee Russell a rest. Having been the judge of the story competition for 2 years running, you're being allowed to get on with your writing. Right. However, she will still remain connected with the Bedford Writing Competition because she has agreed, alongside Sophie Hannah, she will become a patron of the Bedford Writing Competition. So her name will appear on all the information we put out on the competition. She'll be invited to any events that she can make, and she'll be very welcome. Right, that's really all I've got to say. So I'm now going to ask Carol Wilkinson, one of our readers, and Judith King, also one of our readers. They read the winning stories, the Bedford Prize story and the the short story competition first prize. They're here to just present as a token of thanks a small gift to Margaret and Lee. So if they'd like to come forward and receive it. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that really is the end of the formal part of this moment, and I suggest we all return to the bar. Thank you very much indeed.